Hi, everyone. This is Robin.
And this is Edward.
We're here to talk about the research that we've been conducting in the last couple of years. We start off with the previous research that we've been conducting and then continue that led to this particular one. So the research that we are conducting is based on a previous NSERC research about belongingness, and that is regarding the um, understanding of how newcomers acculturate into Canadian workplaces. The question that I had after that research was, now that we understand how they acculturate, would that acculturation change in an environment wherein the workplace has AI and AI enabled robots? So, to understand that better, we need to first understand what workplace environments look like with our newcomers in it and how robotization will impact that. And when it comes to the idea of robotization, what are robots and what are AI? And having an understanding of those three components, workplace, AI, and robots, we can then conduct the study.
So, what does meaningful work mean to you? We found that during the pandemic and also before, workplace meaningfulness was a very hot topic. And what we found during our studies is that doing work that is meaningful leads to higher job satisfaction and increased worker well being, which has been validated in our research. The question arises is the interpretation of the meaningful work, as it is, of course, very personal and unique to each individual's experience. Next, we looked at five key aspects of meaningful workplaces. We discovered that there were pursuing a purpose as important, social relationships, exercising skills and self development, self esteem and recognition, and autonomy. Let's go over each one really quickly. Pursuing a purpose. We know that AI can support us in developing a purpose in our jobs. AI can help us increase meaningful work by reducing the time spent on routine tasks. This in turn helps us to focus on what is important to us. Next, social relationships. So, in terms of social relationships, we know that it builds community and culture in the workplace. And due to the AI and what we've discovered through the AI, we're able to discover those things that are important to humans and to focus on them, but also to extract some of those things that are maybe not as important to humans so that we can de emphasize them in the workplace. Exercising skills and self development. Well, we know that there are certain tasks that allow for skilled individuals to actually put their talents and their abilities to the best use in terms of their expertise. And that leads, of course, to better outlooks for self development to gain or improve new skills. Self esteem. We know that if people are working on certain tasks or on certain skills to improve upon themselves, then they're also raising their self esteem. And therefore, it is important to recognize their development as a result. We also know that it could be a double edged sword because AI also uncovers certain tasks that people do that may be repetitive or may be able to be performed through robotics, which can be a demotivator to individuals as well. So we just need to be careful about that. And then we found that there also are considerations in terms of autonomy. In certain organizations, we know that there is AI that tracks individuals. They track the number of keystrokes that they do. They track how many times they go to the washroom. That tracks what they do with their mouse. So left unchecked, that can become a demotivator for employees as well. All right, in the next slide, we like to talk with Robin in regards to how he looks at the definition of artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, at the end of the day, is all about tasks that are usually done by humans. So, what are these types of AI? We have reactive machines wherein it reacts to an input that you provide. So, for example, you would have um, a little toy robot wherein, like you see in this graphic, you interact with it, it recognizes who you are, and then you connect that way. Very limited type of interaction and action by the robot. The next thing is about limited memory. Limited memory is about the ability of robots to be able to react based on previous data, which means you need to have historical information for the robot to then make decisions based on what was previously incorporated into it. It has a learning component on it, and present day systems utilize what's called deep learning to train robots to react in that way. The third one is called theory of mind. Now, theory of mind is the understanding of that AI, understanding emotions, belief systems, and thinking patterns, along with some cognitive capability. So, an example would be your autonomous car, for example, an autonomous car that understands the behavior of humans around it and how their driving patterns can potentially affect its own ability to stop and continue or suddenly stop based on the environment and input that it gets around it. The last one is this whole idea of self aware or this singularity, wherein the AI is now its own self aware entity, much like a human and much like Terminator. And we are not going to hopefully have that in the future, but that's still far away. Currently, we have the top three types of AI that are being that's available commercially and being used even in our homes, even in your phones right now. So your AI Google Assistant will be able to connect with you and respond to your questions and be able to even respond politely if you are polite to it. So there are some interesting algorithms incorporated in that. Intelligence engages in each one of these AI would be anywhere from, by its definition, narrow intelligence or a weak AI is pretty much that limited capacity. A general intelligence is pretty much what's involved in limited memory and theory of mind kind of an AI. And then super intelligence is what's connected to self-aware type of AI. What we have done in our lab, which we will talk to you in about 2 minutes or so, is that we have been building these training materials that are available for public consumption in nano format, which would be lunch and learns, or in micro learning format, which would be at the 2 to 4 hour sessions around health and safety of robots, around understanding of how robots are in work environments and how you prepare for that. So this is one infographic we created that's an example of that. So what is the definition of robots, Edward?
Well, it could be a creature, it could be a device. It really depends on you. No, let's give you the formal definition. A robot is a programmable machine that physically interacts with the world around it and is capable of carrying out a complex series of actions autonomously or semi autonomously. In most of the cases, the ultimate goal of developing robots of any kind or form is to replace human effort, either performing functions in a human like manner, mimicking other animals' movements and behavior, or even a whole different way of engaging a purpose. So we know that there are various components of robots. There's the mechanical side, there's electrical side, and there's the programming side. The mechanical side, let's think of the Mars 2020 rover's wheels. And there's a level of mechanics that are involved in order to make those wheels run on another planet. Now, there's the electrical side, and that may be fueled by a battery to be able to work while it's operating. And there's the programming side, which involves a tremendous amount of coding. Now, what are some of the types of robots? Well, there's plenty there, and there's a lot that we're using in our studies as well right now. There's the pre-programmed type of robots, and these are robots which basically do what they're programmed to do, and we use that in our test study every day. There's the humanoid robots, and one of the most famous humanoid robots that we have out in the market today is Sophia. Sophia is an advanced human-like robot produced in Hong Kong called Hanson Robotics is the company that creates that. We have the autonomous robots, and you probably know an example best of the Tesla Model 3, which is self-driving. You have the teleoperated. You may have seen these on TV recently that many police departments use. These are robots that can be remotely controlled, usually by humans. You have augmenting robots. These are robots that can enhance human capacities. Like the picture shown is a robot suit named Hal from a Japanese company called Cyberdyne. And then you have robots that are virtual, robots that only exist and operate in a virtual environment. And this image shows the usage of a virtual robot to simulate the actions of a physical robot. All right, so what other types of robot categories should we consider? Well, we have robots that are by industry, for instance, for travel, healthcare, logistics, etc. There's ones by usage, whether it be education, entertainment, aerospace, etc., or by locomotion, such as swimming, flying, hybrids, etc. And these are usually countless robot types existing nowadays, and there's a natural tendency that certain industry fields will keep driving the development of these areas. All right, over to Robin.
So now we have seen robots, AI, and workplace acculturation. Having that background, we go into now our study of how does this environment of robots and AI impact the work ethic of our various employees, those who would be newcomers, immigrants, and locals, and so forth. So we present to them triangulated multimodal research methodology. And one of them is an example of showing this graphic and asking them, what is your reaction when you see a robot fall down? There may be individuals who will anthropomorphize this and will actually say, oh my God, this robot is broken and how can I help it? There are others who will say, oh no, this is just one of my other devices and will therefore ignore it or will treat it like any other machine. And we'd like to know how that actually impacts their behavior and their performance when they're in those environments with these robots. This triangulated multimodal research methodology incorporates consecutive samples, wherein these are the participants from our previous research with 150 participants there. And then we also use voluntary response sample, wherein we go to various locations. Because of COVID, we've gone to the beaches, we've gone to a mall, we've gone to a variety of public spaces to understand how people react to these various environments, these various questions around having AI and AI-enabled robots working with them.
This table helps me to illustrate how our teams use statistics. So what we have here is an SPSS output of a data set we run from a survey that Robbins and Edwards made. The first column of this table shows us a list of variables. Each variable corresponds of each of the questions that Edwards and Robin asked to the respondents of the survey. So they were asking if they were feeling comfortable or not in front of AI. They also asked what was the age, how many years in the current roles, years in work industry, and if they use a smartphone or not. There was a list of questions. Some of these variables were quantitative variables, some other ones qualitative variables. The variable that they were interested is the comfortableness of the individual in front of AI. And they wanted to know what of this variable important to explain why some people feel comfortable and some others don't feel comfortable in front of AI. For a study that we run a logistic model. And this logistic model allows me to study variables when the variable is qualitative in this way. So with two possible answers. So we run the statistics. If we found that the p-value or the significance of the variable is smaller than 0.05, we say that this variable is relevant. The variable explained the response variables. Okay, we found that none of them satisfy this. So there is no correlation between any of these variables and the variable comfortableness. The only variable that was actually relevant, and the variable that was relevant is country of origin. And what's relevant in this way, with the p-value, the significance is less than 0.05 first. And second, we noticed that the coefficient was a negative number. So what happened is that we don't have enough sample to put the variable country as a nominal variable. So for example, the value of country could be Colombia, Spain, United States, China, etc. But here what we did actually was convert these variables in an ordinal variable. In this way, we assigned number 1 to high income countries and number 0 to low income countries. This is negative because what we have found is something that surprised me when I found it, is that it's easy for people from no high income countries to answer yes to the question, do you feel comfortable? So to confirm that these two variables are actually correlated, we run other statistics. And these statistics help me to understand how is the correlation between these two variables, country and comfortableness, that we made both ordinary variables. For that reason, we use some symmetric measures. And these symmetric measures show me exactly the same. So we found a correlation that is negative. So the highest of the income of the country, the lower the possibility that the person answer yes to the question, do you feel comfortable? And again, the level of significance was for each of these statistics, comparing comfortableness and country of income, were lower than 0.05, so lower than 5%. So the sample shows that there is an association between these two variables. We ran all the statistics that we don't show here, but all of them shows that there is a correlation.
And if we match the results of the quantitative component with a qualitative component, we end up with this. What we have found is that individuals in our consecutive sample, which means these are the ones that were in our longitudinal research participants, so they've been with us for now 3 years. We've been following their careers since the time they landed in Canada. Remember those 150 people? They were all, well, not all of them, 42% of them were positive in their comfortableness of working with AI and AI enabled robots in their workplaces. There were 31% of them not so much, and 27 were like, we'll see what happens when we get there. The difference, though, happened in our voluntary and inconvenient sample. Those individuals just pretty much come from everywhere. So we did ask some of them what their backgrounds were, but interestingly enough, an overwhelming majority, 48%, said that they're not that comfortable working with AI or AI-enabled robots. What we have found further is that from all the words that they have used, and we have used our own AI to actually cull through the many hundreds and thousands of words that we have gathered was that anything that's a routine task was considered okay. They're comfortable to work with. Um, if they are individuals with advanced degrees or have professional experience from their country of origin. When they are working with uh, much more repetitive jobs or environments where their work is not to them exciting or even meaningful, and therefore they considered it as routine, then they feel like their robots are going to take over their jobs. So that's an interesting aha for us to understand that if it is a routine job, then a robot can potentially work that job, replace that job. If it is a job that needed critical thinking and a lot more complex decision making, then the robot is considered to be an augment to the work that they are doing, and they don't feel that they're going to be replaced. So all of this then translated into a lab that we built at George Brown to then say, you know what, we can't just have this stop at the end of the research grant, but actually continue it. We have partnered with all of the companies that you see down below from our original NSERC grant or CCSIF grant. And that amounted not just the 364,000 that the government has given, but because of the contribution of all these partners that you see, we have about 1.2 million that has been raised to continue this project. So that anywhere from companies providing us with actual robots to companies providing us support to maintain the robots. One robot that fails, that maintenance costs about 10,000 bucks. One robot given to us was about 70,000 bucks. So these amounts magnified very quickly to about 1.2 million, and therefore quite useful for a future activity for our school. So what we have done is, to date, we have had 12 students work for us, and we now have available 15 spots for co-op, or if you want your capstone project to include us in your capstone project, that works very well. And what we have also done is partnered a true interdisciplinary relationship with other departments. So currently, we have worked with not just within our own faculty, but also with liberal arts, applied arts and technology, as well as nursing. And we have built these micro credential, nano credential classes that is now available for public use. And some of the wonderful sessions that we have built are entitled quite nicely Robot Readiness, Technosocial Storytelling, this design-based research modeling, and AI text generators. So the Robot Rabbit Readiness, we work with our technology partner, another faculty from the technology school. Technosocial Storytelling and AI text generators, we work with our liberal arts faculty, and they've been wonderful providing us content in their own perspective, and we've collaborated with them as well. And for the design based research was with our nursing faculty, and it is a true collaboration of an interdisciplinary uh, set of lunch and learns, webinars, and any type of format that we can provide based on that. So this is now our current lab. Once we're able to go back to our school, we'll have a physical lab there where you can actually see the robots and you can interact with them. And I invite you, if you're interested in creating your own research and working with us so that then you can have access to these robots, you're welcome to it. We'll work with you on figuring that out, what type of project that would look like, and so forth, right? So we can go to your class, provide you with content, any of those things. We are available in a variety of social media channels. And with that, we've learned one thing that we have highlighted with our partner at MIT. So Kate Darling is a social robotics expert and research specialist at the MIT Media Lab. Before I started in this journey, I've actually contacted her and we've been in contact throughout this process, wherein she studies robots and how robots affect humans individually. What she has not done, which is what we have done in our research, is how those robots and how humans behave in a work environment. And what she has said, which we are uh, also repeating, is that the machines have a very, very different type of skill set and intelligence than humans. So we should not anthropomorphize them. What we should do is to actually build in a partnership with them so that we then create a work environment that is robust, that is enriching, that is exciting for humans, rather than thinking that the humans are going to be replaced by the robots. So if we have that mindset, a whole slew of new studies and a whole slew of organizational structures will be in place to address a human robot working environment. So with that, we know that the robots are here and that they are roaming our hallways as we speak. And we welcome any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.